I actually owe some of this to a man named Wesley Balk, who for years had the Minnesota Opera, and he developed a whole way of dealing. He was a stage director and developed an entire methodology of dealing with singers because he felt that flow was so important, that every time you stopped a rehearsal, it was basically kind of injurious to the product that you were trying to get out. That every time that then you would have to overcome the inertia of stopping and starting up again, and that's an energy. And it's sort of like, and you do that enough with a singer, and it really tends to kind of tire you out vocally. And so he found ways of doing hand signals that would affirm his singers as they were working. And, for instance, I remember some of them. I knew him fairly well, and he came down here and gave workshops about 15, 20 years ago, and this meant yes, and something, I think this was get rid of your entanglements, or relax emotionally was kind of this, drop your inner tension. He just had things that he did like that. But more to the point of your question, he would talk about using non-judgmental language in the rehearsal and teaching situation, so that you didn't say, God, that really stank, because nobody really sets out to sing badly. It's if somebody has a vocal problem, it isn't because they desire to have it. Usually, in my experience, the problems that people run into in terms of body mechanics and just, if you will, tone production, represent their own solutions to various problems that they've encountered with their voices along the way. Maybe they've had to sing once when they were sick, and they found a kind of way that they could aim at a resonance that was really high and kind of get there, and they decided that was a pretty good way to sing. And of course that cut them off from a lot of other things, but they don't come out sounding like that because they want to sound lousy. They have, it's represented a search on their part, but it has been based on kind of incomplete data. So you can just sort of, I said, well, how do you do that? How do you describe it and say, well, you can say something like, when I hear you sing that way, I have the impression that you're struggling against something. Is that accurate? Or do you feel that when you're singing like that it's everything that you have? Or do you feel, what is your emotional affect when you sing that way to yourself? Do you feel good physically, or could you perhaps feel better? And then, of course, it becomes incumbent on me to provide that experience for them of, this is what you are doing now, but over here there's this, and I have to create in the lesson situation the possibility for comparison. It felt this way before, but I stood in a better alignment, and I was quiet with my throat as I took my breath, and then as I exhaled, I kind of just waited for my voice to happen, and you know what it did? It just happened. So let's see if we can do that again, and see now if you can memorize that set of physical sensations. So a lot of what I do is that kind of thing, is try to explore possibilities with them about what they could do to become more fully themselves. Because, in acting and in singing, you can't really play another character. It's whatever you do is going to be material that you already have within you. So what I'm trying to help them to do is to become the most fully realized and actualized version of themselves that they can be.